not gonna have just one. You might tell yourself right now, I'm just gonna have a bite, but I dare you. Literally, resistance is futile. What's up everyone, it's Christina Tosi of Milk Bar. I just came out with this exciting new cookbook called Bake Club, which is my online digital baking community where I love to bake everything from sweet to savory. And I brought one of my all-time favorite baking recipes to bake with you. So as a kid growing up, we had cookies and cake and pie in the house. Every once in a while, my matriarchs were really big bakers, but the one thing that always eluded them was a cinnamon bun. Now, I definitely was a little bit of a mall rat as a kid, which meant that I had like that amazing wafty odor of the brown sugar goo and the cream cheese frosting and those big fluffy cinnamon buns always staring at me in the eyes on a Friday night. And so I spent probably from the age 16 or 17 until now perfecting my cinnamon bun recipe. So cinnamon buns can seem a little out of reach, maybe time consuming to people, but first things first. In everything that I do at home as a baker and definitely in Bake Club is demystifying all of the sort of dialogue that we have with ourselves as to why we can or can't make, bake, cook something. So throw those thoughts out the window and just dive in with me. So first things first, the bun dough. I like to whisk the yeast around as we go to make sure that it's fully alive and active, there are no lumps and clumps. And you know that it's alive and well and ready to do the job if it foams just like this. Once your dough is into a nice shaggy mass, it's time to knead your dough. Gluten is what you want in bread. Gluten are those stringy, chewy pieces that make bread so alluring and appealing. It's why we just can't quit our bread, right? So when we mix bread, we want a lot of gluten in it. And in order to maximize the amount of gluten in our bread dough, or in this case, cinnamon bun dough, once the ingredients come together in a mass, you want to knead them for 7 total minutes. It's not a number that I came up with. It is literally a number where you can really dork out on the internet about gluten development. But 7 minutes ensures that you maximize the gluten development. And it's literally by agitating the flour with the wet ingredients that's going to develop that gluten. We're gonna clean this bowl, grease it, and put the dough ball back in and give it 1 hour to relax, to rest, to rise, to poof, to proof, to double in size. We need 2 more steps of our recipe to come to life. The first is a brown sugar goo. So that is the cinnamon swirl in a classic cinnamon bun. But this is a great opportunity for us to talk about flavor story, because a flavor story for me is like the epicenter of anything and everything when you're making something in your own home kitchen or your professional kitchen. Like, what is it that I'm trying to say? What flavors am I putting together and why? Like, what is it that I'm doing here? Your brown sugar goo could really be anything. You could say, I want to do like a nutty coconutty filling, and I want my center, my flavor story to be about like German chocolate notes, but on vanilla terms. The holidays are coming up, and I want it to be all about like candy cane lane cinnamon bun. So it's totally up to you based on the flavor story. Now, mine is light brown sugar, cinnamon, butter, and salt. Our bread dough has doubled in size. Now it's a richer, fattier dough, so there's an inherent shine and gloss to it. When you go to pull it out of the bowl, it should come out really simply. And what I like to do is when I go to poke my dough, it should hold the finger indentation a bit. It really is the Pillsbury Doughboy hee-hee moment. That's what you're really looking for. We're looking for one nice, consistent, even in thickness and thinness, rectangle. And I typically like to do a center and then roll out, center and then roll out. And whether that's that I'm rolling it away from me or towards me, you get the most consistent rolled dough if you start in the middle and then you roll in one direction, and you try to think about even body weight and pressure as you go. Now, it's bread dough, so inevitably what's gonna happen is it's gonna start to look like a giant amoeba. This dough is super duper forgiving in that you can pull a little bit of the dough up without tearing it to try and convince it to make a little bit closer to a nice, beautiful, picture-perfect rectangle as you go. Now, I'm looking for a longer rectangle because this cinnamon bun dough makes 12 buns. So I'm looking for a rectangle that is long enough to be able to divide it into 12ths. So once I get a nice consistent rectangle, you can be a little less precious with how and where you bring that rolling pin to get that desired effect so that you're maximizing the amount of dough on your counter. Then you're gonna take that brown sugar goo that is nice and homogeneous, and you're literally just gonna pop it down onto the surface, and you're gonna spread it as evenly as you can to the edges, to every edge of your dough. You're literally going to roll your cinnamon bun into one giant pinwheel baton, and you're gonna roll away from you. This dough is super duper forgiving because of all the butter. And I just take the tips of my fingers and I start that pinwheel, because you gotta start somewhere. And I just try to make a nice long snake with it. Some of that dough will try and roll back at you. It's no big deal, just keep going. Again, super duper forgiving dough. Talk about nostalgia. This is like channeling your inner like first grader, or for me, toddler. It's like playing Play-Doh with my kids. And then you're trying to land this dough so that this seam here is at the bottom. That's when you know you're done rolling. So I just grease a 9x13 pan. You just want to arrange your pinwheel dough, knowing that they're going to, as they proof, that they're going to spread a few inches in each direction. So I sort of like for my cinnamon buns to not be too precious looking in the pan, and I do 3 rows of 4 buns. These buns are going to rest and rise for another hour. They're gonna poof, they're gonna proof, they're gonna double in size. So these are gonna go in a 375-degree oven until they poof and caramelize and brown and smell like a teenage shopping mall moment. These cinnamon buns are hot out of the oven. They've poofed, they've doubled. We can see those brown sugar goo pinwheel moments. What I love about a cinnamon bun is that no 2 cinnamon buns are the same, even from the same batch. So a little dollop on each. I let the warmth melt the frosting a little bit, and then I just take my spoon and I go a little back and a little forth. For me, it's about the right amount of cream cheese frosting. I love a little bit of the bun peeking out in the tips and the tops and the bottoms. Ooh, that's my cinnamon bun. Whatever your flavor story is, I can't wait to see what you all bake up, and I hope that your inner 16-year-old throws me a peace sign. Enjoy.